Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. This is Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another card making video tutorial. This one is in celebration for World Card Making Day. I'm really excited to participate in a World Card Making Day blog hop. And so I've made a video to go along with today's card, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So today is going to be a shaker card, and I'm going to feature Foxy Friends stamp set, and I'll also be using Painter's Palette stamp set for the sentiment, and I'll be using a couple of different dies to actually use in concert with the shaker portion. What I'm using for the window of the shaker card is going to be the layering squares dies. I like these dies because they cut a perfect square. The heart dies cut a perfect heart. The circles cut a perfect circle. It's wonderful. It makes my card making experience so much better. Also, what I can use with these dies is they have not just a straight square, but they have a scallop. I guess you can make it like a frame. That's how I'm going to be using it today. So I used the two dies together that I chose out of the set, because there's a whole lot of dies in the set. And I used the one die to cut out the gray, I guess you want to call it a scalloped square. And then I used the exact same square size die that I used to cut the hole in the window. I cut that out and made a frame for my shaker portion that is going to fit exactly to the size of the window portion on the shaker. That is perfect for me to be able to get everything without a whole lot of work on my part to try to struggle for inching it this way, inching it that way. It just works really good. I'm using a die from another set in order to make the shakies of my card, and the set is called Everyday Jars Framelits. You probably are familiar with this set for the mason jars that it has. It has 3 different jars, and it has hearts, of this little row of hearts here. There are flowers, greenery. It's a great stamp set and set of dies they're widely used. And I just reached into that for this row of hearts. And I feel like this row of hearts is made to give shaker, to make different things for the shaker. And the reason I'm using cardstock for the shaker portion is there's 2 different things that I had in mind. The first was that when I use cardstock for my shaker filler, then it matches everything else that I've used on my card precisely. It matches the ink, it matches the designer paper. It works really, really well. Also, I usually have scraps of cardstock sitting around, so I'm using something that is not really a consumable that I have to add to, and that works well for me too. So being able to go to a product that I already have in my craft stash and give it another purpose is wonderful. I really, that to me makes an experience in crafting so much better. I started out with a card base that, once it's folded in half and scored, measures 5.5 by 4.25. And this card is going to be side folding, so the part that is scored is going to be along the 4.25. That's what I would score it at after it was cut by 11. This is a sheet of window acetate that I'm attaching now with some snail adhesive to the inside window of the shaker portion. So whenever I cut the Calypso Coral, the orangey color, I cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base. And then when I cut the white the white piece to go on top of that, I cut it yet another eighth of an inch smaller than the orange piece. So everything has a nice, small, thin frame around it. And so the white piece would actually be measuring 1/4 of an inch smaller than what the actual white card base is. I don't have the measurement for the window. I just used the framelit for that. And I didn't precisely cut the window sheet, the acetate. I just cut a big chunk of it that would fit behind the card front. And the reason I don't have to worry about getting it to an exact size is that it's not going to be seen, and that it would be able to as long as it's large enough to contain the shaker element, the shaker filler, then that's really all I really need to be concerned with. To make the shaker stand up, I'm using foam adhesive strips. They have sticky stuff on the front and the back. So whenever I put the filler inside of the shaker portion, then it's going to be raised up just enough. And I think that whenever Stampin' Up designed this product, they made it to just the right height to be able to, they don't want to give too much height away from the card, but it's enough to let the shaker filler really move around. And I like the height that it is. I've used other foam tape adhesive, and I've used dimensionals, and this is like an in-between that works out really good for me. Thing to remember whenever making shaker cards is that you have to support the rest of the card front. And you also have to make sure that you're supporting it at the same height level as you're making the shaker. So if, for example, I were to use Stampin' Dimensionals around the rest of the card to keep it elevated away from the card base, then it wouldn't be at the same height, and the front of my card would be wonky, and that's not what I want to present to somebody as a finished work of art. So that's just one of my little tips to lend to you, is that be aware whenever you're making a shaker card that you need to be conscious of what you're using for adhesive for your foam. I used an anti-static tool. I'm sure you saw the little brushy thing, and that's because the window sheet creates a static field because it's plastic, and I used it around the perimeter. I used it on the window paper. I used it on the designer paper, and that way it eliminates or cuts down on the amount of static cling that's created in the shaker portion. And it will also help to cut down on the pieces sticking to the side of the adhesive. It's not going to prevent it altogether, but it will cut it down. The fox is from Foxy Friends stamp set, and I've stamped him out using Calypso Coral, the orangey color of the cardstock. That's the same color ink that I used, and I'm using also a Memento black, tuxedo black, to stamp out his eyes. And when I stamped it, it kind of went a little cuckoo. So I'm using a black journaling pen to go over that and kind of even out what my stamping was. And I'm using his little legs. In the stamp set, there's a lot of choices of body parts that you can build an animal. So this is his little legs going on here first. And I'm going to fussy cut this out. If I were to use the Fox Builder punch, which is a great punch, then I would have to build up the fox individually on my card, but I wanted it to be one piece, so I chose to stamp him out and fussy cut. This row of pennants is from the designer series paper that goes with the Foxy Friends suite, and I believe it's called A Little Foxy. And there's a piece of designer paper that has rows and rows of these pennants. I thought it would kind of give a little bit of a party atmosphere to my card, and I thought that would convey a little bit of fun, and kind of send the message out visually of what I was thinking of with making my card for World Card Making Day. The sentiment is actually from Painter's Palette, and it reads out as a little expression of love. And I'm stamping that on a scrap of Whisper White cardstock, and I backed it with a piece of Pool Party. So the colors that are in this Foxy Friends suite all go together, and the designer paper pulls them all together visually so that there's not just one color or two colors. It allows me to use three colors together that are featured on the designer paper, and it kind of visually is pleasing to the eye. And I'm attaching a couple of the hearts that I reserved from the shaker portion just to kind of bring that color out into the rest of the card. And also, they're just cute little hearts. So I thought it would be something nice to add to the sentiment banner. So as I'm placing this out on the card, then I am trying to figure out where I want to put this. I didn't plan and make a card ahead of time. What I chose to do was shoot the video of me making this card like right on the spot. So I apologize if you guys are seeing me make some of the decisions, but I was in a hurry to get it done, and so you guys are getting to see my whole thought process of whenever I work on a card. So little Mr. Fox has got some dimensionals on him, and he is going to be attached to the card, and I wasn't sure where I was going to place him on the card, but it ended up to where I just was able to put him right on the card down next to the sentiment, and it all worked out together for the. So at this point, I'm just attaching him and trying to plan out where the little banner pieces are going to work together. And I thought maybe putting the fox in a different location would work out really well. But I kind of decided in the end that he's going to kind of sit down here, and there's an image that is in the Foxy Friends stamp set that is a square thought bubble, and it has hearts inside. And that's kind of what I was thinking of whenever I was putting the card together. When I designed it, I was thinking of the shaker part being like, this is what the fox is sending out to the world, or this is what I am sending out to the world, is a way to say, what do I want to say in a card for World Card Making Day? Well, I want to say that I love everybody and thank you all. And that's kind of where I was going with putting the square, making it a shaker, filling it with hearts. I was just thinking a way that I could send my love out to everybody. So here I am sending my love to all you guys. I love you crafters, and I love the support that you give each other and that you give to me, and it is much appreciated. And I return all of your love right back to you. And thank you guys for sticking with me and watching this video. Thanks for visiting my channel and my blog. And if you would give this video a thumbs up, I would really appreciate that. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.